Rodgers on the move. End zone for Adams. He's got it. Touchdown.
They're going to have a defensive end out there.
3rd and 1. Rodgers under pressure again and just has to flip it, and it is going to be gone. Jones has 98 of them. Play fake here, though. Rodgers going for it all, looking to break it open. He's got it. Lazard's going to go. Touchdown.
They're able to change.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Titletown Lounge podcast. I am your host, Ryno. You can find me on Twitter at Sports Talk Ryno. Normally, you'd see a guy to the right by the name of Brandon, Wisco_Brandon on Twitter, but he's decided to take a vacation this week and has given up on all of his responsibilities for the podcast just for this week, though. Nothing serious. He's enjoying some time with his family for the 4th of July, extended holiday. Brandon's the kind of guy that likes to celebrate things for 3-4 weeks. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even know what he's doing right now. It looked like he had a nice fancy lunch. So he's probably just kicking back by a pool somewhere. But welcome to the Titletown Lounge podcast. It's a slow time. It's a slow time of year right now. There's not a whole lot of news. I was really hoping there'd be something with Davante Adams and the contract situation with him. Some news has popped up about Jair Alexander, and they're negotiating a deal with him. Obviously, nothing is broke. Really, the only exciting thing that's going on for Wisconsin right now is the NBA Finals. The Bucks are in the NBA Finals, so that is always a great time to enjoy some basketball in July. They lost last night, but I think they'll clean it up and make a series of things. What about the match? Did anyone watch the match last night with Tom Brady and Brett Favre? Wow, Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was very entertaining. I watched it for probably about an hour and a half before the Bucks game started around 8 o'clock. They're very competitive guys. It was actual golf. I mean, it wasn't some guys messing around on the golf course having fun. I mean, they were competitive. They were trying to beat each other, and it was cool to see the human being side of Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Off the field, we're used to seeing them as competitors and pads and throwing the football around. It's cool to see them off the field, outside of the arena, being human beings, having fun. It was awesome to watch. I really enjoyed it. And this particular match brings me to my first topic of discussion. One thing that I've really been seeing a lot on Twitter and Facebook, I'm a part of a lot of Facebook groups for the Packers. A lot of people really have just been shitting on Aaron Rodgers lately. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, I hate him. I hope he never comes back. I hope he never plays for the Packers again. And honestly, it's absolutely ridiculous. No one knows exactly what's going on between him and the front office. No one has any idea. Obviously there's the speculation among people in the media, your Adam Schefters and what have you, your Ian Rappaports. There's the unnamed sources. It's always an unnamed source. It's always somebody who's in the shadows lurking in the background who wants to make a comment about something. We've never had any concrete facts, concrete evidence of anything that's going on between Rodgers and the front office. Yes, there's a little animosity there between the two. Excuse me. Obviously, Rodgers is unhappy with something. We don't really know what yet. Obviously the Packers have put their feet down. They've drawn their line in the sand. They're saying this is where we will no longer continue to budge. You either accept our contract extension offer or you enjoy your last season in Green Bay. But no one really knows exactly what's going on other than the crap we have seen rolling along the ticker at the bottom of ESPN and NFL Network every single day. I mean, look at how much the media blew up yesterday when Rodgers made his comments to BA during the match. Do you know if you're going to be under center September 12th against the Saints? And, he made his normal Rodgers backhanded comments, we'll see, and I'm just worried about all that stuff. I mean, within minutes, I was getting notifications from Bleacher Report, from ESPN, from NFL Network. Oh, Rodgers unsure of future in Green Bay. Give me a break. We're gonna take that and run with it. We're gonna spin that story. You're taking a strand of yarn and turning it into gold, is what they're attempting to do. There's no story with what he said yesterday. He didn't say anything we didn't know already for a month now, for 2 months now. He's not in Green Bay. He's not at training camp. He wasn't at OTAs. He's technically not under center right now. Nothing he said changed that. Nothing he said is any different than what we've known this entire time. But it had to be breaking news. It was all over. It was all over Twitter. It was all over Facebook. It was everywhere. And this is exactly why I have remained neutral this entire time. This is exactly why I have not formulated my own opinion one way or the other. Yes, there are some things that the front office can do differently, and we've spoken about that at great length on the show with several different guests. There are some things the front office probably mishandled and could have done differently. There are things that Aaron Rodgers mishandled and probably could have done differently, but nobody knows the facts. Nobody knows exactly what is going on between, your Brian Gutekunst, your Mark Murphy, your Matt LaFleur, and Aaron Rodgers. And the unfortunate side of this, the actual side of this, the impact that this is having on the franchise and the future of the franchise, I think there's a lot weighing on the decision to re-sign Davante Adams. And, I spoke the last time we recorded, I spoke that I don't believe Aaron Rodgers' decision is going to sway Davante Adams' decision at all. But on the opposite end of that spectrum, I do believe Aaron Rodgers' decision will sway the Green Bay Packers' decision. Not necessarily, obviously there's been some sort of negotiation between Davante Adams and the Packers, or at least some sort of open communication, like, hey, we'd like to discuss contract. I do believe that they are maybe pumping the brakes on putting an offer on the table with Davante Adams. I think that they're waiting to see what Rodgers is going to do. It would, and I'm going to get a lot of flack from Packers Twitter on this, but I think it would behoove the Packers to maybe hold off on re-signing Davante Adams if Rodgers comes back to Green Bay under the same deal that he's in right now. If Rodgers comes back, does not sign any kind of extension with the Packers, does not restructure his deal at all, if he comes back under the same contract that he is under right now, I firmly believe that this is Aaron Rodgers' last season in Green Bay. I think that they have no choice but to trade him for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, you have Jordan Love, who is waiting in the wind to take over at quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, but you also have the salary cap issue that the Packers are going to be facing in 2022. And if you look at the numbers, as of right now, they're going to be somewhere around $27 million over the cap next season. If you get rid of Aaron Rodgers, you're only saving, and I can't remember what the exact numbers are, but I believe it's somewhere right around $22 million. You still have about $5 or $6 million that you have to account for just to get even with the cap. That doesn't account for signing your new draft class, signing any other potential free agents, or even restructuring other people. Now, obviously, a Davante Adams or Jair Alexander contract extension would alleviate some of those cap problems next season. But if you look at it from this particular aspect, let's say Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay after 2021. Let's say he's back in Green Bay. He is the quarterback for one more season. They take one, final last trip to an NFC Championship game, perhaps a Super Bowl, and then the Packers decide to either cut him or trade him. Is it worth signing Davante Adams at that point to what is going to be a $100 million contract? Is it worth it? He is getting up there in age. I believe he's going to be right around 30, 31. He's not the fastest, strongest, or quickest wide receiver. Obviously, he relies a lot on his intelligence, a lot on his footwork, which, that's one of the few things for a wide receiver that sticks around in age. Your footwork will still be there. Your intelligence will still be there. Your route running prowess will still be there. Maybe not the speed. 2-3 years from now, he's probably not going to catch 60, 70-yard bombs anymore. But, this team is centralized around a draft and develop process. I mean, that's what they've been doing for years. Davante Adams was a draft and develop wide receiver. He was taken in the second round out of Stanford years back. And honestly, nobody knew what he would turn into. Nobody saw him when they drafted Davante Adams and said, he's going to be the best receiver in the league someday. No one said that. So do you roll the dice on signing Adams to a $100 million deal, even with Jordan Love as your quarterback? I just saw Andrew Yoder comment, no, not worth it. I'd rather sign Alexander and Jenkins down the line. That's a great point. That's a phenomenal point. Jenkins is going to be one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league in the next 3 and 4 years. He should have been all pro in 2020. He was a Pro Bowler for the first time in his career. He could play all 5 positions. So you have that that's looming in the shadows. You also have Jair Alexander's extension. I think with age and impact, I think Jair Alexander is going to make a bigger impact for the Packers in the future than Davante Adams will. Now, obviously, Davante Adams has that chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. That's one of the best duos the NFL has ever seen. I mean, that's up there with Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning. That's up there with all of the greats. Your Steve Young and your Jerry Rice, your Joe Montana and your Jerry Rice. It's up there with that as one of the greatest duos of all time. But we did see flashes of Davante Adams playing well when Aaron Rodgers got hurt in 2017 when Brett Hundley was the quarterback. Is that going to be the case in 2022 if Jordan Love is a quarterback? I mean, that's 5 years after what he did with Brett Hundley as his quarterback. So that also is a giant question mark. But the biggest factor on why I may not necessarily be signed Davante. I'm not team Davante. It's Matt LaFleur's system. Matt LaFleur runs one of the best offensive systems in the NFL. I mean, look what he did from year 1 to year 2 with the exact same roster. Some of the additions that they had from 19 to 20 really didn't play or make an impact. Your core guys were there, your Jamal Williams, your Aaron Jones, your Davante Adams, your MVS, your offensive line, obviously Aaron Rodgers. But look at the difference from year 1 to year 2. I mean, he made Robert Tonyan one of the best tight ends in the entire NFL in 2020. He led the league in touchdown receptions for tight ends. I don't think that's because of Robert Tonyan. I think that's because of the scheme that he plays in. So, is Davante a great wide receiver? I will never argue that he isn't. I will never say that. Obviously, he's a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. I would put them right now. I'd put Davante as 1. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they should break the bank to keep him. He's not a Megatron. He's not a Julio Jones. He's not a guy that you absolutely cannot let go of. He's a guy that fits a system very well and plays very well because of the guy that's throwing him the football. So a lot of lingering factors sit with the Davante Adams contract scenario. I do believe that the Packers are going to be a little hesitant on what they may offer him and how far they're willing to go in negotiations with him if Aaron Rodgers is under the same deal. Now, if Rodgers comes into training camp at the end of July and says, all right, let's do this. Give me a 3-year extension. Let's, finish my career in Green Bay. I want to be here forever. I don't want to play for anyone else. Let's let bygones be bygones, water under the bridge. If that's what Rodgers does, I think Davante stays 100%. I don't think there's any way you keep Rodgers long-term without Davante being there. But if Rodgers is gone, I think it's safe to say that Davante will, at a minimum, play the 2021 season under the final year of his deal. And I don't think you see any contract extension until next season, if there is one at all. The other gentleman that they're discussing contract negotiations with, Jair Alexander, sign him. And you have to sign him. You absolutely have to keep Jair. You cannot let another great cornerback walk. They let Casey Hayward go to San Diego, and he went and balled out. He was an all-pro for a couple seasons in San Diego. Micah Hyde, I think he had 1 Pro Bowl season in Buffalo. He's been a great specialist on the special teams, a return guy. But we've seen too many great cornerbacks either sustain injury or leave and go on to have decent careers elsewhere. Jair's the guy that they absolutely have to throw a blank check at and keep as long as possible. I think getting rid of Rodgers, not re-signing Davante Adams, and signing Jair Alexander to a contract extension is probably the most likely scenario that you'll see going forward over the next 12 months. Sorry for the noise. I think maybe an earthquake is happening. Or dogs. I don't know. But keeping Jair's age is enough to justify signing him to the contract that he deserves. He's going to be in Green Bay for a very long time. He's going to be an effective cornerback for a very long time. They're now adding defensive pieces around Jair to make him an even more effective cornerback. I mean, Eric Stokes out of Georgia in the first round during the NFL draft is going to help Jair. It's not going to hurt him in the slightest bit. It's going to help him. Here's a great question. I did say, by the way, just to reiterate for those of you who are watching, I did say that I would also be doing a Q&A throughout the show simply because it's myself, so I need somebody to talk to. But here's a great question. How many games do you think Love would win if he started this year? And I have addressed this a couple times. So, Andrew, I will answer your question. I think he still wins double-digit games. I think they're a 10-win team with Jordan Love under center, and here's why. This is the best roster a first-year quarterback has ever taken over, at least this generation, if not ever. I mean, you're talking about either the best player or a top 3 player at your 5 most important positions. Well, a quarterback, obviously, Aaron Rodgers would be gone, so that one's eliminated. But offensive tackle, they've got David Bakhtiari. He's the best tackle in the NFL. Elgton Jenkins is going to be one of the best, if not right behind Bakhtiari, as the best interior lineman in the NFL. Aaron Jones, top 3, you cannot make the argument that he's outside of the top 10. Devontae Adams, for now, if he stays, best wide receiver in the NFL right now. I think he's the most versatile wide receiver in the NFL. And then you got Jair Alexander, the best cornerback walking the planet. I mean, I don't think there's an argument that you can make in favor of that. So I think as of today, now this obviously depends going forward in the future. As of today, they have the best possible roster a first-year quarterback could take over. And the division is still weak. I mean, yeah, the Bears had a great draft. They've got their quarterback of the future, potentially. I'm not going to speak poorly about Justin Fields. He was a great quarterback for Ohio State. He's got a lot of upside. So he potentially could be their franchise quarterback, but they're not there yet. I don't think they're going to be a division foe that'll compete for, first place this year. And we all know what the Vikings are. The Vikings are the Vikings. They're going to maybe start 4-2, 5-2, and then they'll maybe finish right around 500, 8-9 perhaps. So the division is still up for grabs this season. And I think that's one of the reasons why maintaining this roster is so important, because if Jordan Love develops into the quarterback that you want him to be, that you need him to be, maintaining this roster is going to be crucial, because the Bears are going to get better. The Lions are definitely going to get better. The Vikings are terrible, and I'm never going to say that they'll get better. So I think moving forward, it's important to keep that roster together. But this year, this season, 2021, I think they still win the division with Jordan Love under center. Unless he is just absolutely terrible, unless some of the things that we've heard out of camp and other players say are completely wrong, there's no way they don't win 9-10 games and compete for the division championship. Now, how far they go in the playoffs is a completely different story, because there are some very heavy-hitting teams in the NFC. I mean, you're going to have Washington, who's going to be improved. You're going to have Dallas, who's going to be healthy and competing for their division as well. And obviously Tampa Bay and Seattle. I mean, it's going to be a very tough road to the Super Bowl, whether it's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's probably going to be 4 12-win teams in the playoffs. I mean, Seattle, Tampa, if Rodgers is under center, Green Bay, and potentially Washington or Dallas could be that other 4th 12-win team. So the playoffs themselves are going to be a huge question mark for this team if Aaron Rodgers isn't under center, but a playoff berth is definitely something that's attainable. So, Love having a great year will make those guys want to stay. I don't know if that'll apply to Devon himself as, that elite player. I think Jair stays if Jordan Love has a good season, simply because he's a young guy. He's going to get paid, and he's going to be around for a long time. Devontae's not going to be around for a long time. I mean, we're probably on the back 9 of Devontae's career. So I don't know if he plays for another, unless he remains 100% healthy, which he has struggled with at times. He only played 14 games last season. Unless he remains 100% healthy, maybe 5 years. But, at that point, wide receivers really fall off a cliff when they hit the back end of their career. They go from being a great wide receiver to pretty much nobody in the drop of a hat. I mean, we saw what happened to Donald Driver. Donald Driver played a year too long, in my opinion. I know he had the passion for the game. He had the drive to produce, but Donald Driver probably 1 year past what he should have. And we all saw what happened to him. He was absolutely terrible. So I think the Aaron Rodgers decision looms more on Green Bay in terms of re-signing Devontae. I think it'll impact their side of the negotiations more than it will Devontae. I think Devontae wants to stay. When he said, "I don't plan on going anywhere," I thought he genuinely meant that. I think he wants to finish his career in Green Bay, whether it's Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love under center. But I think the Packers' willingness to re-sign him is going to depend heavily on Aaron Rodgers' decision. I think there's a couple guys that'll stay. I think Aaron Jones wanted to stay regardless. I think he knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to be iffy on whether he was returning or not, and he still signed his extension with the Packers early this spring. So guys like Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, MVS, perhaps Alan Lazard, if the Packers keep him, those will be guys that'll probably stay around regardless of who's under center. But your Devontae Adams, I think he's gone if Rodgers is gone. I don't think Adams signs that contract extension. So moving on, I don't know how long of a show we're going to have today, simply because it's weird talking to yourself. I don't know if you guys have ever done it before, but it's kind of weird. Going forward, offensive line rotations. Now, obviously, before the David Bakhtiari injury, this was one of, if not the best offensive lines in football. It was right up there with Cleveland's offensive line. You had guys that could play multiple positions. When you have versatility at your offensive line, that is really what makes your offensive line great, especially the depth. You got guys like Elgton Jenkins who could play damn near any position on the offensive line. He could play right tackle. He could play right guard. He could play center. He could play the left side of the offensive line. I think under normal circumstances, your starting day rotation at offensive line would have been Bakhtiari at left tackle, Jenkins at left guard, Josh Myers out of Ohio State, the rookie, at center, Patrick at right guard, and Turner. Or you see that the only one not Turner. The only one that's up in the air is right tackle to me. But the good thing about this is, Patrick can move around and Jenkins can move around. I think Jenkins probably moves over to left tackle just for the first couple of games. I don't know how long Bakhtiari is really going to be out. I mean, there really hasn't been a whole lot of discussion in terms of his recovery. It's not solidified whether he's on pace to be the opening day starter. And I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if I'd want him to be. I would rather his health were guaranteed and he wasn't, 95%, 90%. I'd rather the doc say, hey, he is 100%. There is no risk of him re-tearing that ACL unless another freak injury happens. But it's not a weak ACL. He is 100% at strength. Then get him in at left tackle. But the depth at offensive line for the Packers is really what's going to save them if Aaron Rodgers is not under center, because Jordan Love is going to need all the time in the world. If Jordan Love is in the backfield scrambling around, if he's running for his life every passing play, we might not see the best Jordan Love that you could potentially see. Giving him the time, giving him the lack of pressure, stopping the pressure from getting in the backfield is what's going to help him succeed going forward. So the offensive line is really it's not a question mark in the sense of is it going to be good? It's a question mark in the sense of who's going to be starting where. Jenkins is probably going to move around to multiple positions in the first couple of weeks to see where where he's most effective at and where other people are most effective at. Here's another question from Andrew Yoder. What about the running backs? Dillon could be a monster along with Jones. We've also discussed that at great length. I believe that this backfield could potentially be the best running back duo in the NFL. Aaron Jones obviously needs no introduction. He's one of the best backs in the NFL. He's got the yardage, the touchdowns, the all-purpose yards. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can line up out wide and catch the ball downfield. We know what Aaron Jones is capable of. We don't quite know what A.J. Dillon is capable of yet. We only saw really the one breakout game that he had last season was against Tennessee, where he ran for about $115 and 2 touchdowns. He had that one, I believe it was about a 35-yard touchdown down the sideline when he broke through the offensive line. But the reason why it's going to be such an effective backfield is because they're two completely different backs. Completely different backs. I mean, even more so than Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones were. Jamal Williams was a very effective running back, as a 2 or a 3. He could catch the ball in the backfield. He was more of a north to south runner than he was an east to west runner. Aaron Jones can move in the sweeps. He could get outside the tackle. If there's a gap that's closed in front of him, he can obviously adjust and pivot and make the moves out to the outside if need be. Jamal Williams wasn't necessarily that back as much, but Dillon is going to be a guy that hurts people. He's going to be that bruiser. He's going to be that 3rd and 1, that 4th and 1, that goal line run guy who gets in there and just runs right through people. And I think, Matt LaFleur is very creative at what he does with his backfield. He's very creative with what he does with his tight ends. And I think it's going to be very hard to prepare seeing both of those guys in the backfield, because we saw A.J. Dillon in OTAs catching passes. That was something he didn't do a whole lot of at Boston College. I believe his last season he caught 16, 17 passes. But if you get him going in the passing game, how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for Aaron Jones running in motion, but then all of a sudden you dump a screen off to A.J. Dillon and he's got blockers in front of him? It's impossible to prepare for. So I think that difference between your running back 1 and your running back 2 is really what's going to make that backfield so effective. I think it's going to be a top 3 backfield in the NFL. I mean, obviously you have the backfield in Cleveland, which probably will be number 1. Anybody that you pair with Derrick Henry is going to be a great backfield. We'll see what happens in Dallas with their backup running back position, but I think Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon is going to be a top 3 running back duo. And yeah, you're absolutely right. It definitely will make Jordan Love's job a lot easier. If you have a running back tandem that you have to respect. See, that was one of the problems with Aaron Rodgers in some of his down years. 2015 when Jordy Nelson went down, 2011 when they went 15-1 and then lost against the Giants in the divisional round. Even 2018 when Aaron Rodgers struggled really statistically, and I say struggled based off of his normal statistical output, but it was a down year for Rodgers. And a lot of that accounts to a lack of a run game. They really did not have a good run game in those years. I mean, I believe it was from 2010 to 2011, they went like 45 games without a 100-yard rusher, even into 2012, I believe. So a great running back duo definitely takes pressure off your quarterback. That's a great point, Andrew. And with this offensive line and that running back tandem, even without Devontae, this is still a very dangerous offense. I mean, you have Marquez Valdes-Scantling, you have Robert Tonyan. Mercedes Lewis is still going to be there this year as well. He's a great blocking tight end. Maybe not nearly as effective as he used to be, but still a really great blocking tight end. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is all of the pieces are there for Jordan Love to succeed, even if he takes over now. Whether it's now or next year, the pieces are there. So it's really going to boil down to how good Jordan Love is. I mean, it's not like we're bringing in a Trevor Lawrence and then surrounding him with the team that Jacksonville has. It's a completely different scenario. And to be honest with you, I think if Jordan Love becomes the starter today, I would be willing to bet that Jordan Love has a better season than Trevor Lawrence does. Not that Jordan Love is a better quarterback right now than Trevor Lawrence is. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is one of the best prospects we've seen since Andrew Luck, but they don't have a whole lot of talent down there in Jacksonville to surround Trevor Lawrence with. In Green Bay, they have all the talent you could possibly need to win a Super Bowl. So, yeah, keep this core together, keep this offensive line together, keep that running back tandem together. As long as Aaron Jones continues to produce, this could be a great team for Jordan Love to take over. So what do we got else from Andrew Yoder here? He's really lighting it up here, man. I appreciate you, Andrew. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you all for tuning in to this solo show. I feel MVS is right on the verge of being very good. He showed flashes last year, and I 100% agree. I compare him to Devontae Adams and his first 3 seasons. It wasn't until Adams' 3rd season where he really had the breakout year. He was, I think, may have been literally a yard or 2 short of 1,000. I think he may have had double-digit touchdowns in his 3rd season as well. But if you remember, Devontae Adams' first couple of years with the Green Bay Packers were terrible. It was drop city with Devontae. He dropped a lot of passes, a lot of touchdown passes as well. And there were a lot of people that were calling for his head and to be traded. So kind of the same scenario with Marquez, where he had some cases of the dropsies. We've seen that. But he is very effective as a deep threat. I mean, he could potentially be one of the better deep threats in the NFL. Now, is he a Tyreek Hill? Probably not. But could he be a top 5 deep threat? Absolutely. He led the league in yards per reception. I believe it was right around 20 yards per reception in 2020. So, yeah, I think MVS is right there on the verge. Absolutely. That's a good point, Andrew. Moving on to Joe Barry, I wanted to talk a little bit about Joe Barry and what he is going to do for the Green Bay Packers. And this is the same scenario as Jordan Love. Joe Barry is coming into a situation where he's taking over a great defense. This was a defense that was top 10 in yards allowed, and I think they were right there on the door, if not, may have been 9th or 8th in points allowed as well. And you've got some heavy hitters on this defense. You've got Zadarius Smith. Preston Smith, if used properly, could still go back to the way he was in 2019 when he had 13 or 14 sacks. And, of course, Jair Alexander at corner. You've got Darnell Savage back there as well. So this is a defense that is obviously a lot better than what he had when he was a defensive coordinator in Detroit and in Washington as well. I mean, those were teams that really did not have the personnel to succeed no matter who the defensive coordinator is. And I think you will be able to see a bad or good defensive coordinator a lot better than you will offensive coordinator. I mean, a great offense will mask a bad offensive coordinator. We saw that with Mike McCarthy when Mike McCarthy was calling plays. You know, there were a lot of question marks with Mike McCarthy, and he had all the talent in the world. The game really passed him by. Right around the 2017 time when Aaron Rodgers went down with injury, you know, Mike McCarthy stayed in 2016. The entire NFL continued to go on with the normal timeline. So we've seen what a bad offensive coordinator can do with a good team. I'd like to see what Joe Barry does with a good team. I think he can be a very effective defensive coordinator. He's made some okay linebackers, really good linebackers in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles had probably the best overall defense, and they were first in yards allowed, first in points allowed, first in, I think, rushing yards allowed, and third in passing yards allowed. And he had a lot to do with that. He was the linebackers coach in Los Angeles. So I don't think Brian Gutekunst makes that move. I don't think Mark Murphy makes that move if they had even the slightest bit of doubt in him. But I don't think Matt LaFleur would want Joe Barry on his staff if he wasn't 100% sure. I mean, obviously, you know, there was with the last defensive coordinator, there was a little bit of animosity, I believe, between Matt LaFleur and him. But I don't think the confidence was 100% there. I don't think it was there. Now, obviously, last year the defense played pretty good up until that game against Tampa Bay. But I think the confidence with Joe Barry is there because they've seen what he can do with guys and what he can turn them into. And when given the talent, Joe Barry has succeeded. He was very good in Los Angeles with the linebacker core there. He also worked under guys like Tony Dungy and John Gruden. So the philosophy is there for Joe Barry. The personnel is there for Joe Barry. It's time to finally have a good defensive coordinator in Green Bay. And I think you're going to finally see that. I think Joe Barry is going to take this defense to the next level. And just like we've been saying the entire time, a good offensive line, very effective for a quarterback. A good running back duo, very effective for a quarterback. Well, what else is very effective for a quarterback? A great defense. If your defense is turning the ball over, if you're stopping long drives from happening, you're giving your offense that much more of a chance to put points on the board. And that's exactly what this offense needed against Tampa Bay in the NFC Championship game. They needed a couple more. I mean, they got the opportunities in the second half and they failed, but the opportunities weren't there in the first half. I mean, you had that very long, sustained drive to open up the game. You had the Hail Mary, pretty much the Hail Mary at the end of the half. I mean, a lot of people put pressure on Aaron Rodgers for not scrambling for that touchdown, even though I don't think he makes it. And, you know, making 3 straight passes to Devontae Adams there in the end zone. I think they're 2 defensive plays away from winning that game. And both of those defensive plays happened in the first quarter. Both of those defensive plays happened because of Kevin King. Kevin King jumping a year in advance of that pass on the opening drive in the corner. Why he did that, I'll never know. And then, of course, the one where there was nobody downfield and he got burned by pretty much a nobody at wide receiver. You take those 2 plays away, if those 2 plays happen any differently than they do, Packers are probably Super Bowl champs right now. Still haven't recovered from the Kevin King play. My heart rate. Yeah, it's hard to talk about, man. I mean, it's another one of those Wisconsin heartbreak moments where you're right there knocking on the door and they fail. I'm really hoping the Bucs turn this one around. Hopefully they break the curse and take the pressure off of all these Wisconsin teams, and Green Bay just coasts their way to a Super Bowl in 2021. That's a dream, obviously, maybe a pipe dream, but we will see. So just going back to this defense, obviously the talent level is there. The coordination may not have been completely there. Will Joe Barry be able to do that? We've seen what he can do with guys raising their talent level, raising their production, raising their output on the defensive side of the ball. I don't think it's going to be as hard of a struggle for him to do that in Green Bay. You have guys that are already elite at their positions. Darius Smith is an elite edge rusher. Jair Alexander, an elite cornerback. If he works with the linebacking group and gets them a little bit better than they are, you're looking at a top 5 defense going into 2021. So yeah, I mean, a lot of question marks going forward. There's not a whole lot of content right now to talk about. It's the slowest time of the year. Just a reminder, I don't know if any of you have seen this or not, but we will be recording live at Coyote Bar and Grill in Belgium, Wisconsin on July 25th. I can't believe it's already July. It's ridiculous. July 25th, Sunday at noon, Brandon and I will be at Coyote Bar and Grill. Check us out live. If you're in the Wisconsin area, come down, stop and see us. We'll be doing a couple more giveaways. They've got great food, phenomenal food. And I think I'm going to call it quits for this evening. We covered a couple of the topics that I wanted to. Andrew, I know you've been lighting up the chat. I think it's you and probably my girlfriend that's left watching it live. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thank you all for checking out the Titletown Lounge. Once again, you can check us out on Twitter at Titletown Lounge. You could find me on Twitter on the screen at Sports Talk Ryno. And we will be back next Sunday. I'm not sure if we have a guest or not, but I believe next Sunday morning we will be back live, me and Brandon at a minimum. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.